transformation on the battlefield.
Quite extraordinary. Some 3,000 square kilometers that are now in Ukrainian hands.
Russia has confirmed it is pulling back forces.
This is incredibly significant. We have not seen this type of advancement from Ukrainian troops since the beginning of the war.
A jaw-dropping turn of events on the battlefield in Ukraine.
It's important to fact-check these kinds of things. Ukraine's big wins over Russia this weekend are important if true. Keywords, if true. We came over to the maps to show you what the Ukrainian military has claimed to have taken and what really difference that could make. We know the battlefield here. In the past couple of months, Kyiv and the entire western part of Ukraine has been free of Russian troops. We're talking about right in this area where the Ukrainians broke out and here where they were able to push the Russians back significantly. We'll switch now to the next map and give you a little bit of a closer view. 1,100 square miles, it sounds like a lot. It's about 3 or 4 times the size of New York City. But specifically, the Ukrainians were pushed out here and took about 20 villages around Kharkiv. According to at least some maps, depending on how you believe the movement of troops, this roughly pushes the Russians back to where they were in April. A lot of Russian troops allegedly surrendered. Again, we have to take the Ukrainians' word for this. At least one battalion of Russian troops, and this would perhaps be significant if they're starting to desert. At least some Russians now say they'll only fight here in the ethnic regions, the ethnically Russian regions of Ukraine, and are refusing now to push out farther into the Ukrainian countryside. The Kremlin has insisted, of course, that it's going to achieve all of its goals in Ukraine. And in order to try and hit back, at least from the PR side, they launched missiles into Kharkiv, which was the big Ukrainian holdout here in the east, the second largest city they had. A couple of people were hurt, 4 killed during these counteroffensive strikes by the Russians. But these were all missile strikes. The Russians do not have the ability to project force on the ground. Ukrainian troops raised a flag in Kharkiv. And as you might imagine, civilians who were living under the thumb of the Russian troops in some brutal conditions were overjoyed, to say the least, to see their own countrymen come back. We have a before and after map from the Institute for the Studies of War. Gives you an idea of how much territory has changed. Again, about 4 or 5 times the size of New York City. Lieutenant Colonel Danny Davis with us, 21 years in the U.S. Army, including Desert Storm and the Second Iraq War, along with Afghanistan. It's good to see you, sir, as always. Is sort of the excitement and hysteria over this a little overblown?
It is, and although it's understandable because Ukraine hadn't had any real tactical successes really in the war. They've just been going backwards the whole time. But it's important to understand exactly what did happen. I like the way you set that up because it's important to say that Russia had been putting all of their focus in the Donbass. And so they conducted what's called an economy of force mission in both the north and in the south, in the Kharkiv and in the Kherson area, which means they put as few troops as they needed to just try to hold the Ukrainian troops in place while they put the forces in Donbass. Now, what Ukraine did is that they collected a large number of troops and then overwhelmed those small number of troops in the north part there and drove them out back to their positions that you talked about back in April. That basically has used up most of their striking power. And in the southern part that you pointed out, the Ukraine actually suffered significant losses. That was not a successful attempt in the south, and they have now basically used up their offensive potential. So it's not like, the Russian is now collapsing and they're going to be driving Russian out. This is an important success for Ukraine, but we have to keep it in context.
Yeah, I'm reading some of the tweets from the experts on this, and obviously this isn't a war against good and evil, and when good succeeds, you want to celebrate it. John Spencer, just in case you were not informed, Ukraine's launched the greatest counteroffensive since World War II. John Cooper, Ukraine's stunning counteroffensive against Russia in Kharkiv is an incredible military victory that will be written about and analyzed for decades, if not centuries, to come. Long-awaited confirmations on successful counteroffensive, more than 20 settlements liberated in Kharkiv region. I kind of don't understand the intellectual dishonesty.
Yeah, it's either intellectual dishonesty or they're attempting disinformation or they just don't know what they're talking about. I really can't say which it is, but I can authoritatively tell you that's way overblown based on what actually has happened. And the problem with that is that it undervalues what the Ukraine actually did accomplish by making it sound like something much bigger than it was. And it also makes people think that more is coming. And I'm not sure that right now anything is coming more.
Obviously, this is not the news that Putin wants the West to be hearing. He never likes to be embarrassed. He watches American cable television. He reads American newspapers. We know this. Is this further backing the rabid fox into a corner?
You know, I can just about guarantee that he's not just going to sit passively by and allow his troops to be, beaten back the way they were and do nothing about it. I mean, if we know anything from Putin all the way back to 1999 when he was in charge of the Chechen war for the first time, is that when he is pushed, he will push back hard and he will not hold anything back to accomplish his objectives. And he has put his political and probably his actual life on the line with this. And I think we can be pretty confident that he's going to do something to retaliate for this. I just can't imagine him just be passively allowing it to go.
You as a student of this know it better than I do. Russian doctrine, escalate to de-escalate. When you're losing on the ground, you use tactical nuclear weapons. Now, they haven't done this yet, but we know that that's how their military views things. Is this enough of a setback that it would trigger that?
No, definitely not. They have been pretty open about talking about what would trigger a nuclear escalation from the beginning and throughout, and that is if they felt their country was an existential threat. And that means like if NATO entered this fight on the side of Ukraine, or if the NATO was doing something, providing some capacity that actually put the Ukraine side, the Russian side in danger, in mortal danger, then they would use it. This is an embarrassment. It's a setback, but I assure you that they have conventional means right now. And I bet in the coming week to 2 weeks, we're going to see some kind of retaliation by the Russian side that's probably going to try to hit back on the Ukraine side.
Yeah, I always wonder at times like this, and having been on the ground in these sort of unconventional wars, including in the eastern part of Ukraine, you never knew what to trust and what not to trust so often in information. And I think about during this war, you had the ghost of Kyiv, right? The mythical fighter pilot. Right. And then you had the story about the island. And you had all of these sort of incredible PR coups by the Ukrainians that you can call them disinformation, you can call them wartime propaganda, whatever you want. But I'm wondering why you think the American media as a whole has not been more questioning of the Ukrainian narrative, especially with the clips we just saw off the top versus your analysis.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just that, man, Americans love good versus evil, Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker kind of thing. And they've just decided that Ukraine is the good guy. And so, the evil empire from back in Reagan's days, everybody loves to hate the Russians. And I think that they're just playing out those roles there. And at least I've seen in the New York Times and Washington Post in recent days, at least a little bit of truth coming through, especially in that southern Kherson offensive. The Washington Post pretty blatantly covered that it was not successful. But the majority, as you just put up there on the screen a second ago, most people are just, overjoyed with claiming all these successes and they want to believe that. So they're saying it.
It's a great point. And that is that it may not be a nefarious misleading, but it's sort of a wanton desire to make this true, even though it may not be. Colonel, it's always good to see you, sir. Thanks for the sobriety.
You bet, Leland. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.